So today we've got Nick Pineault. He is an independent journalist, and he is fastly becoming an expert in the field of electromagnetic radiation and other forms of electro smog, if you will. Thanks, Nick, for tuning in and being here today to share your expertise with us.
Thanks for having me. It's a real honor.
So could you first talk about just what are the symptoms of EMF exposure that are common that people might suspect they're being exposed in a nefarious way to EMF?
Yes, well, it varies greatly, and that's what makes it a little bit tricky. The top symptoms that have been identified by doctors who treat electrosensitives include fatigue, insomnia, which I mean, you'd be pretty fatigued if you have insomnia, of course, low energy, but also depression, anxiety, and then there are certain symptoms that are even more telling of people that are more on the hypersensitive spectrum, including heart palpitations from certain devices. If you're near a Wi-Fi router or a computer or even cell phone towers, in some cases, can give people a weird feeling with that their heart rhythm is off. And when they get away, it will fade. And that's also part of how to verify if these exposures are really causing your symptoms is sometimes you can pinpoint that there's causality. You're near a computer, you don't feel well. You're not near the computer, you feel okay. Headaches are also very common. There are also skin rashes that are even more telling as a sign because literally I've heard from people who, if they're near a computer on Wi-Fi, they would see their skin becoming pink, and there are good reasons to think that's because there's a histamine release from mast cells that migrate at the surface of the skin, and we have plenty of data on this. So literally some people are more allergic to radiation than others, which is quite bizarre if you think about it. It's not a food, or it's something invisible, and yet it's very true. And another one I'll mention is tinnitus, because for some people it really looks like it's causing this ringing in the ear for them, which is can be quite debilitating. So I have to say that these symptoms will sometimes mimic other conditions. So some people think, okay, it must be food or it must be chemicals, but sometimes it's also EMF. So it's very hard to pinpoint in which cases EMF is a big problem, but it can vary for each person, and it looks like individual sensitivity and your likeliness of developing these different symptoms will vary a lot from one person to another. And the unfortunate part is that if you feel sick from an exposure, an EMF exposure, or an everyday gadget, but your spouse does not, it makes it difficult for them to believe you. So the hard part, and even the part for practitioners that is hard, is believing the person with their subjective symptom, which sometimes could be, something psychosomatic. It exists, but most of the time, what is found in the data is that no, this is a physical thing, and it has nothing to do with what they think about EMS, because in many, many situations, the exposure is first, then the patient feels sick, and then they figure out that EMF was the cause. So it's not the nocebo effect where they fear EMFs. It is very rare that this is the case. So it gives even a stronger ammunition to the case that it's really EMFs that are causing these issues.
Who would have thought being allergic to your cell phone would become a thing? Very,
Yeah,
very interesting.
exactly.
If we could, by helping the audience understand, what's the difference between EMF and radio frequency and some of the other, because we have cell phone radiation, we have microwave radiation, we have all these different types. What could you kind of break it down for the average layperson to understand it better?
Sure. So there are, of course, the natural types of EMFs that we've co-evolved with in nature. Namely, it goes from the extremely low frequency of EMFs, such as the Schumann resonance emitted by the planet Earth. We know that we need this type of low-level radiation in order to feel connected to the planet. In fact, there are some studies showing that if you isolate people and exclude completely the Earth's magnetism, you get into trouble. Even your circadian rhythm is linked to it. But also in the much higher frequencies, we have the visible light spectrum, and we know that sunshine is super important for the circadian rhythm, for your hormonal optimization. And then vitamin D, especially the research in the last several years, have confirmed that this is an important part of immunity that is provided by regular sunshine exposure. When you have sufficient UV exposure and your skin is transforming this sunshine exposure in vitamin D, and it acts as more like a hormone rather than a vitamin. So it is a key component of health. So these are natural types of EMFs, just a few examples, but we have also unnatural types of EMFs. Let's say human-made EMFs that we've introduced to the environment in the last few hundred years, in the case of electricity, especially the last 100. And then we have even newer type of exposures in the form of wireless communications that we've introduced to the advent of the cell phone, and then eventually Wi-Fi, and more recently so Bluetooth. So all of these are example of man-made EMFs, and radio frequency radiation can encompass cell phones and Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and cell towers, for example. And a slice of radio frequency radiation can be called microwaves, and these are literal microwaves that are emitted by your phone, and that's in fact a signal that is similar to a microwave oven, although at a much, much lower degree in intensity, or else we would be cooking ourselves, which is not the case. But what we're interested in the scope of this science is not necessarily how much this radiation is heating tissue, just like inside a microwave oven. It is the case that, your food can heat and in fact be completely, boiled or burned by a microwave oven. That's not what's happening at this level of radiation, but we're interested in the non-thermal effect of this radiation. And there are many reasons to think that they include oxidative stress, and also the changes in how the cells behave. For example, the change in how certain ion channels will act on the cell level. And not to get too deep into the science, but how I think about it is that we are bioelectrical beings. Many parts of our bodies act with electricity or use electricity or display electrical signals we can read, such as the brain, the heart rhythm, and all sorts of different body parts, including at the cell, and then deeper at the mitochondrial level. And then if we include or if we expose ourselves to outside sources of electricity that do not contain the right information, it becomes a sort of noise to these sensors on our body. So we're really talking about bioelectric interference, in a sense, how our external use of man-made EMFs is interfering with our natural ability to use electricity at the cell level.
That makes me think a lot about the electromagnetic pulse technology, where you emit a nuclear blast that has such an electromagnetic field of a pulse that it can interfere with the way electrical gadgets and electricity in our world, would normally function. So it only makes sense to me that, if we're being exposed to these fields at higher rates for, that aren't natural, that it could potentially impact or affect us electrically as well. As you mentioned, the heart is an electrical organ, the brain is an electrical organ, the nervous system's an electrical organ. Okay, so we have this new technology, right, that's been rapidly increasing over the last several decades as would you call it safe? I mean, the big argument that I always see and hear is, of course, everybody uses a cell phone, therefore they can't possibly be dangerous. The government would never allow for something so dangerous to be used by everyone. And of course, I can think of a lot of reasons why the government doesn't care. Could you talk to that? Could you talk to the recent, or not recent, but the lawsuit the FCC lost on safety? Can you speak to that a little bit?
For sure. So in 2021, the FCC is the Federal Communication Commission in the USA, and they are supposedly responsible for health. Whether they're really doing it or not is another question, but they had to review their EMF guidelines. So the amount of this radio frequency radiation and other types of man-made EMFs that are allowed in the population. and whether that's safe or not. And they were supposed to look at the scientific evidence. They basically closed this entire responsibility they had in analysis by saying, no, we're not going to change anything. But then they got sued by activist groups, which included many independent scientists and many doctors that do not agree with their presumption that everything is safe. And it went to the judges, and they lost in court. The FCC was slapped on the wrist by these judges who said, clearly you have not reviewed the science, so you need to go back to the drawing board and present something better. And so far, they've been stalling this case for 3 years, but it means that in the meantime, all we know is that the rules that are in place that are supposed to protect citizens against this radiation are not appropriate. What is the safe level of EMF? We don't have this determination at the moment, even around the world. There are different nations that have much, much, much lower level of allowable EMFs in the population, including different rules around the placement of where cell towers should be and what is considered a safe distance from a cell tower, and also including what is the safe amount of Wi-Fi we should have in schools. So when you look at different governments and what their health agencies have found, it will vary widely. In the US and in Canada, for that matter, where I live in Montreal, they would say you can be exposed to any of these devices at any distance for any amount of time, and you're perfectly fine. This is what they would claim. In other countries, they would say these exposures are extremely dangerous. For example, I saw news in Italy a few years ago where they had this mast, this cell phone tower in a public park that was measured too high compared to their limits that are much lower than what is the allowable limit in Canada and the US. And the mayor of that city said, this is very dangerous. We're going to close out the park. We're going to replace the mast or, lower the levels to something that is allowable. But in the meantime, the same levels and even higher levels than that were seen in the US and Canada. And these towers were starting to be installed in 2019 and 2020 in that 5G network rollout that was starting to take place, where antennas are being installed closer and closer to where people live. So there's a flagrant disregard of, I guess, the science that Italians are looking at when it comes to North America. And that's really where you see certain governments, I think, follow the precautionary principle much closer, where they say maybe there's uncertainty around the data, but the indications we have, we should really err on the safe side of things, because many times in history we got things wrong. They got things wrong around asbestos and leaded gasoline, and many agents were rolled out and did damage to a population, only to discover later with epidemiology, which is of course the science of counting body bags. Let's face it, unfortunately. You study the populations and see, I guess, yes, asbestos led to lung problems, or smoking led to lung cancer. So we have similar data now with EMFs, namely just the cancer link is stronger and stronger. And it is all this radio frequency, including your phone, and the device you might be using to listen to this very interview. It is a class 2B carcinogen, and that's the determination from the International Agency for Research on Cancer back in 2011. That's already 13 years ago. So it's quite an old decision at this point. And the new data we have is sufficient for certain scientists to say it should be reclassified as a class 1 carcinogen. So class 1 is asbestos and smoking. So in that sense, many scientists are saying, look, this is the new smoking. These EMFs are really the smoking of the 21st century.